This is a CBC podcast.
Well, last month we told you about a situation unfolding at the only daycare in Chéticamp. This is the Petit Poisson Daycare, which is housed within École NDA, which is part of the province's French school board, the CSAP. That is NDA's CSAP school. Over the summer, parents at the daycare received a notice from the daycare informing them about a policy enforcement that was coming. The changes concerned which children get priority for admittance. Now, specifically, parents were told that preference for daycare spots would go to children who meet the eligibility requirements for admittance to CSAP schools. We spoke with one parent who felt that the changes could end up excluding Anglophone children. The daycare board told us that one staff member felt uncomfortable with the changes and resigned. That contributed to a staffing shortage, which caused the daycare to close at the start of September, which left parents in Chéticamp with no licensed daycare. Over the past couple of weeks, the new superintendent of the CSAP paid a visit to Chéticamp. He met with the staff of École NDA and spoke with them about plans to make the school more open and more a part of the community. And he also met with the board of the daycare while he was there. To find out how those meetings went, we have contacted the new CSAP superintendent, Michel Collette. Congratulations on your new role, sir.
Thank you very much.
So can you tell us a little bit about what it was that brought you to Chéticamp?
You know what? Chéticamp was one of our very important communities. I was glad to go and I was glad to visit with staff. I'm visiting every school within the province, within the CSAP board. And Chéticamp was one of the first ones I wanted to go visit. With everything that's happened in the past few months, there's no doubt that I wanted to poke my head in there and see what was going on.
And what was your mission? What was on your mind?
Well, I did want to meet with the board of the daycare and really understand what was going on with that. I wanted to meet with staff and see how we could reposition the school as a community school, and see how we can get the community more involved in that school and vice versa.
Okay, so what is going on with the daycare?
Well, I'm glad to announce that I don't know if they've officially picked a date, but the daycare will be reopening later in October.
Okay.
So we've been able to work with them and find some solutions and work with them as a partner, and we are helping them move forward in reopening their doors in October, towards the end of October.
So what were some of the solutions you're able to reach?
We're helping them develop a website. We're also helping them develop a new way to enroll students. We've partnered with our cafeteria to offer a food program with them as well.
Okay, so what was the issue at the daycare?
The main issue was a staffing shortage. That we've been able to help with them, work with them on that end as well.
Okay, so what were you able to do for the staffing shortage?
We're just supporting them in implementing the changes they need to do to get more staff in there.
Such as?
We're just working with them to try to find some staff to work within the daycare.
So how are they going to open in October if they don't have the staff?
We're working with them to get staff, and they should be opening at the end of October.
So what about the admissions policy? What's the status of that?
So admissions policy doesn't come from CSAP. They're an elected board, and the board does make that decision. Now, they're housed within the CSAP building, so we expect that services offered within the CSAP building will be in French.
Mm-hmm. And what about this issue of priority given to children who meet eligibility requirements for the CSAP schools?
There's no doubt that we're looking with every one of our daycares regarding that. So there's no decision on that as of yet, but there's no doubt that we are looking into that very closely.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it sounds like, the daycare had been issued a letter saying this is where you're going.
There was no formal letter. There's no doubt that all our partners within our building that use our infrastructure, we want services within the infrastructure be offered in French.
Now, we were speaking with this mom in August about her concern that this is going to exclude, like she was on a waiting list for years for her child. She's removed the child from the waiting list because she thinks it's unfair. So you say that the daycare is a standalone independent entity. So why is the CSAP dictating admissions priorities to what is an independent nonprofit community organization?
There's no doubt that this community organization works within CSAP schools. We're not dictating criteria for entry, there's no doubt. We work with every one of our partners to see how we can better serve the community.
Okay, so what's that? It sounds like we're talking around the issue. Like, what's going on? You know what I mean?
What's going on is that daycare is reopening in about a month, and we're happy to work with them to try to get those doors open as soon as possible. I understand that within that community, this daycare closing has created real impacts for real families in Cape Breton within Chéticamp, and we're looking forward to opening the doors again in about a month.
And I guess what I'm trying to get at is this, in addition to those challenges, the specific issue of the admissions policy. And I know you're saying that you don't dictate the policy, the board makes the policy. My understanding is the old board resigned. We have a new board in there, and even though you don't dictate the policy, you're going to require that if they want to operate in the building, they have to give preference to kids who meet the qualifications for CSAP admission. Is that the case?
I didn't say that. What I've said is that services offered within that building will be offered in French.
Okay, and what about the letter that went home to parents saying that they're going to have to give priority in some cases to students who meet CSAP admission requirements?
So that letter was written by the board and by the daycare, not by CSAP.
Okay, so that is not going to be something that you require?
We're working with the daycare to look at what are the options for reopening.
So it sounds like you haven't decided whether you're going to enforce that policy?
What we're looking at is our priority right now is to reopen that daycare.
Yeah.
And that's what we plan on doing.
And Michelle, I realize you knew the job. I'm not trying to trap you in anything. I'm just trying to understand what's going on there, because we had this parent who withdrew her child from the waiting list because she was afraid that after waiting for years, someone else who was on the waiting list later would get into the only licensed daycare because they are from a French-speaking family.
And I think one of the main concerns that we're overlooking here is that there is just one daycare. From my understanding, there is just one daycare in this community.
Yeah.
So I think there's a larger issue here than just one daycare, the Petit Poussin daycare. But there's no doubt that we're working hard with the daycare to get those doors reopened within about a month.
So you say you came to Chéticamp because you're interested, in addition to trying to figure out what's going on with the daycare, with trying to make the school more open, more directly involved with the community. In the Oran, I saw you said, we want more people using the school. We want to host more barbecues and community events. We want to be more than just a school. So what specifically do you have in mind there?
I think within the province, I think we need to rethink education a little bit. And I think that when we look at our buildings, we need to rethink how they're being used. And we have to realize that education doesn't happen within just four walls of a building. So the minute that we can get students in community and parents within the school, I think we rethink education, and we accept that education is a community-based solution and not just within the four walls of that school.
So is there something specific you had in mind? Like, what steps would you like to take there in Chéticamp to make that happen?
So we're working with staff, because this has to be staff-led. This cannot be me that dictates terms to staff. We're working with staff. We're creating a plan. We're looking, and I said in the Orange, we're looking at barbecues. We're looking at sporting events. We're looking at those kind of situations at the moment. Cultural events available for everybody in the community, within reason, because of COVID, of course. But we are working with staff to develop a plan within the next few weeks or months to be able to reposition ourselves within that community.
So what specifically prompted that initiative for you?
You know, as a new superintendent, I've read a lot. I've done a lot of research. I've spoken to a lot of people, and I think that when we think of education in general, that we need to rethink education, not just in Nova Scotia, but probably across the country. And this is the first step to rethinking that.
Michel, congratulations on the new job. We'll talk again. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Michel Collette is superintendent of the Conseil Scolaire Acadien Provincial, or CSAP. He works at the CSAP's head office in Meteghan. Your thoughts on this are welcome at info_morning@cbc.ca.
For more CBC podcasts, go to cbc.ca/podcasts.